Welcome back and moving on to our first segment of today. The ninth Trilateral Summit held in Athens on Tuesday between Egypt, Cyprus and Greece that focused on energy and boosting trilateral cooperation. Well, we're going to talk more about this and also its impact on the Egyptian economy and the importance of such a trilateral relation with our guest for today, Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Shams University. Doctor, good morning.
Good morning.
So before we proceed, let's shed the light on the significance of this ninth trilateral meeting.
As you mentioned, the ninth meeting, which is quite important to see that this is an ongoing process aiming to coordinate efforts and harmonize efforts among the three countries regarding addressing severe challenges in the Mediterranean, actually, not only from economic perspective, but from the stabilization of the Mediterranean and addressing, security and the challenges confronting this area. We all know to how extent there were challenges regarding, the borders and regarding exploitation of oil and gas in the borders of the three countries, and harmonizing efforts enable the three countries actually to best utilize the resources from one perspective, from another, to achieve security for the three countries. And this is quite important. So following up specifically in this period when we are talking about new events that happened regarding the increase of oil prices and to how extent Europe has been affected by such increase, and there is a shortage actually for energy for European countries. Introducing Egypt into the European market of energy, this is one of the most important topics that has been discussed and presented in this summit, because we have several things. We have Egypt nowadays is having a surplus of electricity and having a surplus of natural gas. So now, and besides, Egypt is having a very important potential for renewable energy. So nowadays, introducing Egypt to be to maintain, the European market of energy, I believe, can play a significant role in order to enhance relations between Egypt and Europe. Egypt is having a partnership agreement with Europe, not yet, as our studies as economists, not activated as it should be. Our trade relation, investment, despite that we have trade relations and investment relations with the European continent, but the prospects can be quite better than that to enhance our relations. Introducing Egypt into the energy market of Europe can play a significant role to activate, the partnership with Europe. And, for Europe, there are severe challenges regarding illegal, immigration, besides, terrorism, the impact of terrorism. So the stabilization of Europe actually can be quite supported by an active role of Egypt, and it has been proved for the last period to how extent Egypt is important for Europe, and this is quite important, and it has been raised in the summit. Besides, nowadays there is, as it has been, declared that there is Egypt is going to be interconnected with the electricity grid to Europe. So this is part of how to implement this strategy. Another point, which is an agreement, an MOU has been signed in order to integrate Egypt into the sea line in order to supply Europe with the renewable energy from Africa towards Europe. So Egypt is full of opportunity. We have a Bemban in Aswan nowadays, a large and a very important, project for solar energy. So this could be, enhanced. And nowadays, Egypt, it's not having such. When you have an enormous plant of solar to, generate solar energy, you are introducing the industry. You are introducing transfer of technology. You are introducing, training of labor. And so nowadays, Egypt is well trained towards the expansion of solar energy and other sources of renewable energy. From here it comes the importance of Egypt to transmit such renewable energy into Europe. And this could be a very important part for joint project regarding achieving sustainable developments.
Right. If I'm talking about this, of course, it shows that we are on the track that we started in 2014 when it comes to the cooperation mechanism, bringing these three countries together. And if I'm asking now about the impact on the Egyptian economy, since we started the first meeting and we started our some of the agreements and the demarcation and all these things, definitely things changed, and people who were talking about why such summits to take place in the very beginning, now things are clear and how we achieved great success in it.
Actually, it has a very important impact on the Egyptian economy. Nowadays, the Egyptian economy is trying to diversify economic activities to attract foreign direct investment. We have mega projects that enlarge opportunities of investment and make it quite profitable, and we are trying to enhance the climate of investment, So all this making Egypt a very important partner for Europe, economic and political partner for Europe. Nowadays, imagine to how extent we have figures to prove that this cooperation has resulted very good for the Egyptian economy. First of all, if we refer to trade, nowadays the trade with Greece, for example, has increased more than 100%. Nowadays, our export to Greece, as the latest figures presented, arrived to more than $800 million, which is quite a figure from a very modest figure. So this is proving that our trade relation has increased substantially. Besides that, the attractiveness of Egypt for the investment coming from Greece and Cyprus, I believe, has increased substantially. We have, we have the tourism. We have very good potentialities for. Nowadays, Egypt is opening again for tourism post-COVID. So I believe that it could be a very important Egypt, for enhancing tourism relations. So I believe that this cooperation has resulted in mutual benefit for the three countries regarding enhancing economic activities.
Right. If I'm talking about, because right now you mentioned some of the international reports on the Egyptian economy, so I think this is going to be my next question, but right after this break.
احنا بنجيب رجالة تشتغل معانا ونضع فيها الثقة في مشاريع بتتكلف عشرات المليارات ويمكن مئات المليارات كمان. واحنا لما بنيجي نتكلم في موضوع بنعمله مش بنعمله عشان يحل مسألة مؤقتة، لا احنا بنعمل موضوع يحل مسألة مستقبلية. وبحلم والله العظيم ان الحاجة دي تبقى حاجة معمولة ترضي ربنا ثم ترضيك.
Welcome back, and I think whenever we watch anything that has to do even with the infrastructure of Egypt now, a dream that came into reality. and everyone can see this all around. And even it's not our words, but let's say that these are the international reports from about economy in Egypt, rating Egypt. Egypt now in actually a position that really it's a great success, great achievement by all means.
Actually, yes, as you mentioned, Nashwa, we have yesterday from Fetch rankings that Egypt is keeping its position regarding B plus and stable situation, which
and
is
I think
quite
keeping
important.
is achievement again,
Yes,
because
yes,
this is the
keeping it
sustainability.
specifically after COVID-19,
Yes.
you know, and while we are within, you know, the pandemic hasn't finished yet, so within this pandemic and the capability of the Egyptian economy to manage and to weather the impact of such pandemic so far, I believe that this can be regarded as a good sign for investors to come and to invest. And there are other signs actually beside what I have just mentioned regarding very important potentialities for profitable projects all around governorates of Egypt. Besides that, you know, we have done, you know, significant progress regarding, you know, the main challenges that have been before declared regarding dealing with customs. This was one of the complaints of foreign investors. Nowadays, we are moving towards the automation, and we started actually the application of automation of our customs unions, customs duties and customs systems. This is quite important. Another one is the automation of the taxation system too, and it was a complaint too by investors. And I believe easing the processes and procedures of, you know, applying for investment, trying to address corruption, having, you know, a mechanism for addressing disputes among between the investors or among the investors and with the government. All these are steps that have been taken regarding, you know, enhancing the climate of investment to attract investment in Egypt. Besides, Fetch has mentioned in its report that still there are some challenges that should be confronted. We are not just talking that everything is quite 100% good. We have other challenges that should be addressed properly. Number one, the role of the private sector. Still, we need to enhance the role of the private sector since you know, lately the role of government has increased substantially in generating investment and in, you know, participating in economic activities, you know, letting the private sector in decreasing in its participation. So we have to enhance the role of the private sector. So this is one of the challenge, and it has been declared by the president and by the government. So we have to activate this goal. Another thing is regarding the debt. Nowadays, Egypt is going towards increasing debt, either internal and external, and this is, you know, jeopardizing our macroeconomic stabilization. And it has been mentioned by the IMF, it has been mentioned by Fetch in its report and other reports. And I believe that President el-Sisi has just had a meeting with government Minister of Finance in order to strengthen the importance of addressing our debt. The only way to do that is to activate investment, activate production, so that the percentage of the debt and towards the GDP can be decreased from one perspective. From another, it's increasing the resilience of the economy to address such debt, because when you use the debt in generating, you know, production, and specifically when you have in Egypt a very important goal, which is increasing our export nowadays from $28 billion towards $100 billion, and we are trying quite good in order to increase our exports. This is quite important. Besides other sources of foreign currency, inflows of foreign currency like tourism, you are doing well, like workers, Egyptian workers, remittance coming, it's keeping its stand, thanks God, which is quite important source to maintain our inflows of foreign currency. So I believe that these are the challenges that are quite important, and from my part, I would like to add another challenge, which is I am keeping saying this challenge. It needs more efforts, which is training the labor, training human resources, and upgrading the skills of our labor, specifically technical labor, because nowadays, you know, we are with the expansion of the real sectors of the economy, on top of them the industrial and the agriculture and information technology, you need human resources and skilled human resources. So from here it comes the importance, and I can believe that this should be a priority for policymakers in Egypt to upgrade the skills. And we have actually different experiences proving that for Egypt, you can do it in a very short period and have significant results. I am myself doing that in I have an NGO. We are actually trying to address poverty by using economic empowerment of poor people. And don't imagine, Nashwa, that in a training of 1 month only you can change the skill of labor, and this is quite important nowadays because there is a deep need for that in order to support our tendency towards economic reform and economic
and I
progress.
believe the Egyptian labor itself, when we talk about it, Egyptians are very smart.
Yes.
Very smart,
Yes.
and they can achieve a lot in a
you.
very short period of time.
Yes.
Just concentrate and give them the right information.
Okay.
So to continue talking about this, and we know that Egypt, Greece and Cyprus signed on Tuesday a trilateral agreement on power linkage. And this is of great importance when we talk about gas and we talk about liquefied gas in particular. Not only now we are talking about Egypt and Greece, as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi mentioned, but now we are talking about the Balkan countries, we are talking about Europe. The impact of this on the Egyptian economy definitely will be completely different.
Yes, I have mentioned that when we talk about introducing Egypt into the European energy market, I believe it has different dimension. Like you mentioned, Nashwa, we have liquefied gas. Nowadays, Egypt is having a very large factory to liquefied gas. And this could play a significant role to export liquefied gas to Europe. It needs harmonization and planning for that. And Egypt nowadays is having approaching to achieve, the self-sufficiency of gas and to have an excess or surplus to be liquefied and to be exported. I believe this can play a significant role for Europe, besides not only the liquefied gas. We have the renewable energy, as I mentioned, and Egypt can play a significant role towards that. So without planning for that, having strategies for, that the three countries are members in the gas forum, and this forum is aiming actually to harmonize efforts regarding the exploitation of energy resources and so on. So I believe that this gathering, and this is the 9th gathering, I believe this gathering is aiming to a large extent to specify what are the plans for the future, how to address the challenges that, every day, with the pandemic, with other problems, that may arise in a very hot area, the Mediterranean, different, political conflicts and so on. So this needs the harmonization of efforts. So what you mentioned regarding liquefied gas and Egypt nowadays is playing a significant part to be a member for maintaining energy security to Europe.
Talking about the role of the private sector in this respect, and I'm not talking about the role of the private sector in Egypt. Now I want to talk about the private sector and the cooperation between the private sectors among the three countries.
This is quite essential. And why? Because, you know, the main aim of such gathering is to elaborate and clarify the opportunities of investment. Because when you plan for the future, you know, this plan is going to be translated on what, how, and how much we are going to invest in what type of economic projects and activities that should be done. And from here it comes that you are going to find, like you mentioned, from the three countries investors that are going to be to have a benefit for investing in such projects. So harmonizing these investment according to the comparative advantage of the three countries can enhance more the economic relations among the three countries from one perspective. From another, this is increasing, the economic efficiency of such activities.
And also exchanging the expertise in different sectors as well, because we were talking about the training and the human resources or human capital. So where are we in this part?
We are, in a better position, but we are
still. We need more.
Yes, we need more. We need more actions to be done, and I believe that if we introduce exchanging experiences among the three countries from one perspective and between Egypt and the European countries, I believe this can play, because, Nashwa, when I refer back to, the activities that have been done by Europe in order to enhance, we have in Egypt Project Tevet, which is completely financed by Europe, and I believe it has pros and cons, because we have evaluated such a project for now more than 10 years. Still, we need to activate that, and on a system of results-based, results-based, so that we can find, results based on indicators to what are the skills that we need to upgrade and to monitor to how extent we are doing that. And nowadays we have the project of decent life. It would enable us to specify the human resources, regarding all governorates. We are not just talking about the main cities in Egypt, but nowadays our dreams and our plans are extending to all part of Egypt with the project of decent life. So from here it comes that what I am talking about is economic zones for introduced to decent life. Economic zones, each governorate and economic zone could play according to the comparative advantage of this zone and the resources existing. One of the most important resources is human resource. To how extent we can use human resources in these economic zones by upgrading their skills and directing them to the opportunities of jobs that can fitting their capabilities. And from here it comes, you are making a big change in the society, and you can achieve your goals regarding how to upgrade the economy, because without introducing small investments, small industries, you cannot reach the goals of enhancing export and arriving to the $100 billion of export goal. So all these are quite integrated to achieve the goal of, changing the position of Egypt on the world map.
And I think it was also part of this and one of the top priorities. And as we have seen, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi inaugurated via video conference new projects
Yes.
for housing projects, for replacing the houses for 22 unsafe areas. And all these definitely are very much important when it comes to the decent life and the developments taking place. So these are symbols of the stability in Egypt.
Yes, but you know, from my point of view, unless you upgrade the skills and find opportunities of job, sustainable opportunities of job related to these economic zones, you know, as I mentioned, you know, I believe this is a guarantee to enable those people to keep this housing, you know, and to manage the costs of the decent life. You know, this is how to sustain, you know, what you are doing. Because when you spend on mega project, you know, you need people to benefit from such project by having sustainable opportunity of job.
From here also I want to talk about something important when it comes to how it was described, the relations between the three countries in the press conference as the beacon of stability in the region. And definitely we cannot have any achievements, economic achievements, without the political stability.
You know what's happening from Turkey, what's happening from Iran in the area nowadays, what's going around in Lebanon, in Syria, in Yemen. You know, all the area is quite an area of conflict. Besides that, the Mediterranean is the link between Africa and Europe, and Africa full of poverty. This is the most poor geographic area in the whole world. And you know, immigration coming from Africa into Europe, people are looking for a better life, and they would like to see their chances in other countries like Europe. For them, this is a dream. But if you can improve the quality of life for them, if you can, you know, allow them to upgrade their skills, to build their capabilities, and enable them to find an opportunity of job, these people are going to be, you know, a part of their society, contributing to their economic development. So they don't need to have such illegal agreement, immigration. And this has happened in Egypt in a very important area that was actually, Nashwa, a very important hot area for illegal immigration, which is Kafr al-Sheikh. I don't know if you know that or no. You know, Kafr al-Sheikh in Egypt was a very hot geographic area for illegal immigration. Nowadays, after the development that have been done in Kafr al-Sheikh governorate, I believe that nowadays the level, according to our statistics, the level of illegal immigration has been reduced substantially. This is what we dream to do it for the African continent. And you know, when Egypt, the presidency of Egypt for the African Union, President al-Sisi, you know, elaborated on how the continent can be developed according to, you know, the Vision 2063 and 2030. And part of it is the industrialization. And when we talk about industrialization, a recent study that had declared, economic study, declares that whenever you find industrial zones in an area, you are going to find this area, the rate of poverty is decreasing. So this is proving to a large extent to how you know, development and economic activities can address poverty and change the scene completely.
Right, Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Shams University. Of course, always a pleasure having you with us on the show. And right now, moving on to a quick break, then we'll be back with more on The Breakfast Show.